Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking the code on one of the most mysterious and, let's be honest, high-stakes professions in all of finance, the quantitative analyst, or as they're known, the quant.
So think about a weather forecast for a second. A meteorologist doesn't just, look outside and guess. They're using massive amounts of data, temperature, air pressure, historical patterns, you name it, to try and predict something that seems incredibly complex and unpredictable. Okay, now what if we took that exact same data-driven logic, but instead of applying it to clouds and wind, we pointed it straight at the financial markets?
Well, that is the absolute core idea behind quantitative trading. It's all about using math and just enormous data sets to find predictive patterns, just like forecasting the weather. But instead of predicting rain, they're trying to predict which way the market's going to move. All right, let's dive right in. We're going to break down what these code breakers actually do, the two main roles they play, peek inside their mathematical toolkit, walk through a typical day, and finally, look at what it takes to actually become a quant. So first up, the market's code breakers. What exactly are they doing day in and day out? How are they using all this math to navigate the total chaos of modern finance?
At its heart, quantitative trading is all about one thing: replacing gut feelings and human intuition with rigorous mathematical models. The whole game is to use computation and number crunching to spot trading opportunities, which are then often executed by incredibly powerful algorithms in just fractions of a second. Now, it's really important to get this. The term quant isn't a monolith. It's not just one job. While there are a ton of specializations, the field pretty much splits into two distinct but totally complementary roles.
The easiest way to think about it is like this. The analyst is the theorist, kind of like the architect. They do the deep research, they come up with the ideas and the strategies. The developer, though, they're the engineer. They're the one who actually builds the high-speed engine that makes that strategy come to life in the real world. You absolutely need both. And because these skills are so specialized, they have become the absolute rock stars of the financial world. As one recruitment manager in Poland put it, they are at the forefront of our efforts to help clients. And that rock star status, it definitely shows up in the paycheck. Just take a look at this data from Poland. A senior quant developer can make way more than even a top quartile analyst. It really highlights how incredibly valuable those hands-on, build-it-yourself engineering skills are right now. So what's actually inside a quant's toolbox? Let's take a look at the core disciplines and the actual tech that powers all their work. Their expertise is really built on these three huge pillars. You've got econometrics, which helps them model all those complex economic relationships. Then there's statistics and machine learning, which is how they find the hidden patterns in the data. And finally, mathematical finance, which is just essential for pricing really complex stuff like derivatives.
Now, a word like econometrics can sound pretty intimidating. I get it. But it can be boiled down to a simple relationship like this one, which basically says a person's wage has some connection to how many years of education they have. Quants just use vastly more complicated versions of the same idea to make sense of financial data. And here are the actual software tools they use to get the job done. You can see Python is the big one. It's kind of the flexible Swiss Army knife for research and analysis. But what's really fascinating is the specialization. For pure, hardcore statistical work, a lot of people use R. For academic research, Stata's super popular. And when you're dealing with just mind-bogglingly huge data sets, the old industry workhorse SAS is still a major player. Every tool has its place. Okay, so we've covered the theory. What does this all look like in practice? Let's actually step into the shoes of a quantitative developer at a fund and see what a day looks like. As you can tell, it is a marathon. The day kicks off before dawn, just checking on systems. The morning is often about playing defense, finding and fixing anything that broke overnight. Then the afternoon pivots to offense, building new tools, getting new data. The day finally wraps up with a big team meeting to go over what worked, what didn't, and what's next. Let's just zoom in on that one task at 3:30 p.m., building a spike checker. Now, this sounds pretty simple, right? But it gets to the absolute heart of a quant's most critical job, managing risk. A sudden, weird spike in prices isn't just noise. It could be a mistake, sure,
Or it could be the first sign that something big is about to happen in the market.
Because a single bad algorithm, a single faulty piece of code, can cause billions of dollars in losses, risk management is everything. And that's why you have industry groups like the Futures Industry Association, or FIA. They set the rules of the road, the best practices and safeguards that everyone has to follow.
So, what this means is that before any algorithm can even think about placing a trade, it has to run through this whole gauntlet of automated risk controls. These are the safety nets. You've got things like maximum order size to prevent a costly typo, price tolerance to stop any insane orders, and of course the ultimate backstop, the kill switch, which can just shut the whole thing down in an instant.
Okay, so with work that intense and stakes that high, what's the payoff? And if you're listening to this and thinking, hey, that sounds kind of cool, how do you even start on the path to becoming a quant? Well, the financial rewards, they can be pretty astronomical. At a top-tier hedge fund, we're talking about total compensation for a senior quant researcher easily hitting $750,000. And honestly, for many, that's just a starting point. But to get that kind of money, you have to survive the gauntlet. The interview process at a top firm like Citadel is just legendary. It's notoriously tough. You start with technical screenings, then you go into a full day of brutal on-site interviews where they test not just what you know, but how you think. It's as much about your problem-solving process as it is about the right answer.
And yet, for all the talk about PhDs from fancy schools, what does it all really come down to? I love this piece of advice from a user on Reddit. The number one thing is just to have a real interest in it. That deep, genuine passion for solving these incredibly complex puzzles with data and code, that's the common thread that ties all the successful quants together.
And this brings us to the biggest question of all. As AI gets more and more powerful, what does the future of the quant even look like? Will that creative, human rockstar spark always be needed to crack the market's code? Or are we heading toward a future where the machines are the ones left to trade all on their own?